Hi everyone, this will be the beginning of my long form journey in a sense, because this is a Q&A style video, and this I do for two purposes. First is that you actually get to know who I am, so you can only learn so much about the person from a 30 to 60 second clip. And second is that I am somewhat slacking off on my long form, which isn't something I should do. So I, in an effort to become consistent, will do these kind of low effort, low edit type of videos so that you get to know me and I get to post a lot more frequently. And then also these type of long form conversations are a lot more enjoyable to myself, because it feels like sitting down with someone else and talking to 45 minutes talking from 45 minutes to an hour, and it's a lot more enjoyable. That's what I would say. And with that being said, we will now begin to read the Q&A questions. And just as a side note, I have my feed of myself on the Mac and also the questions. So if I'm not looking straight at the camera most of the time, do not be offended, please. So the first question: why do most people fail with content even when they post consistently? I would say that posting consistently only allows you to learn consistently. So if you post once a month, you will learn nothing. If you post 2 videos a day, every day, that gives you a lot more chances to learn. And then on the other hand, it's the question of randomness, because if virality to an extent is random, because something will go viral and something won't go viral, in the sense that if you have the same exact video and you post it once and it won't go viral, but then you post it the second time, it goes viral. Why? It's up to something hits and it got into the algorithm for some reason, but it's mostly random. So the point is that if you have the exact same type of content and you post it once, it doesn't go viral. You post it the second time, it goes viral all of a sudden. The point is that the more swings of the bat you have, the more chances for something to go viral you actually have, and thus the more chances you have that you actually achieve your goal. On the other hand, the goal of posting consistently doesn't have to be so that you go viral. You can post consistently just because you are talking to your target audience. And as of like maybe like a year or two ago, the general kind of consensus on that thing was that you have short form, which is supposed to funnel into your long form or streams, and then that's where people actually get to trust you. That's why few people have been gaining followers on Instagram outside of like certain circle and certain circles of people and certain types of content, which aren't maybe like as salesy. But yeah, so I think like Alex Hormozi has been stuck at like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 million followers for the foreseeable time. He's growing, of course, just at a much slower rate than he did in the beginning, which is how it should be to some extent, but oh well. The point is that you should use the short form to talk to your audience, then funnel them to long form, then actually sell them something, or just don't and build trust until you decide to sell something eventually. So that for the most part is the answer to that one. The next question is: what's the difference between content that gets attention and content that gets clients? Okay, so that's to an extent what I was talking about earlier. So when you make content that gets attention, you are basically being a jester, a clown to some extent, because you are posting something funny or something relatable to wider masses, kind of a wider niche, so that you get the attention of the wider niche. And you make a few of those, a few people, a person sees it a few times and then they follow you. And then when they do follow you, they get to the content that gets you clients, right? So that's something specific, talking to a specific niche and their specific pain point, and you make them for different pain points of the same niche, so that you might connect with more people, and that's when you actually like make content that gets clients. So if you like you've been hypnotized by this at some point, right? So someone begins to like talk, like, for example, if you are a coach making less than 50K a month, like that's a relatable kind of wide audience. And if you are like, what's like kind of rotating in my head at the moment is like, I recently posted a video or filmed it, I don't know when it's supposed to come out, but like coaches that make 50K a month and are like at around 10K followers. That's like a relatable thing. And when someone becomes to describe a pain point to you in such a way, it's almost like something. I don't know how to say it in English, but like a divine, like a revelation of sorts. Like this person knows what I'm talking about, right? And well, that's what makes the sale, because you're describing their pain point in such vivid detail, and this guy must knows what he's talking about because he's describing my pain point exactly. Then you tell them how to solve it, and then you offer to solve it for them for whatever amount of money it costs in your program or whatever you are selling. But that's usually how it goes, and that's the difference between content that gets attention and content that gets clients. The third question is, why do so many founders and coaches make content that looks productive but sells nothing? That's like, I think, for the most part, what I described like previously. So some content is they're like more focused on building a personal brand than actually building content that actually supposed to sell stuff. So they are repurposing clips. There's so much content they're putting out, but it's not going anywhere because it doesn't have sort of direction. There's no thought behind it. Nobody sat for 5 hours before and like made a plan to what each video is supposed to do. So it's like kind of filming of a whim. And then also in this, because I've been thinking about this recently, in this kind of thing, this class of people, I would put all those guys which are like constantly flexing on social media, because just a matter of math, not of cope of any kind. So you see a guy that has like a Philippe Patek or a Rolex Day-Date, rose gold. Those are like expensive watches, and it doesn't matter for the watches themselves, but they also live lifestyles which require you to probably burn through like 15-20K a month on just that, and probably more. And in my experience, those people aren't selling you a course which will actually help you tremendously. They are simply banking on the chance that you will see, oh, this guy is spending so much money and has all these watches and all these cars and so on and so forth, without realizing that it's a facade. They probably go somewhere and like spend a bit of money, make loads of content from that, and then they just sell on and on. Or I mean, there could be many venues to this. So they could, live off a trust fund and then, like attempting to make the money from the money they are spending. But it's disingenuous, in my opinion, to sell stuff like that, because you're selling it as to a person that doesn't have anything. And if someone has no money and you're telling him, yes, you will live this amazing, great life, which requires you to, spend 50-60K a month, that's just not going to happen. And you are like dragging people and making them pay for your trading course or your Forex trading course or whatever the guys happen to be selling. But usually it's not something that actually works. It's a pyramid scheme of some kind. So be wary. But it is quite annoying when you see those guys, and when you know that a degree of some portion of people will fall for it and will waste their money, and court jesters at their finest. What's the next question? If someone has a tiny audience, no testimonials, and needs the clients fast, what will you actually tell them to do first? Okay, tiny audience, no testimonials, needed the client fast. It depends if the offer you're selling is kind of mid or high ticket, because those usually require some degree of testimonials. But if the situation is as it is here, and I would presume you're selling something low ticket, or even if you are selling something high ticket, I would still say work for free for a little while, because that gets you either a good testimonial, and when you like make good product for a person, get them more clients, get them more money, get them more views, whatever, if they are satisfied enough with it and have money to pay, they will usually continue to work with you. I like when the example that comes up to my head of such a thing happening is, for example, when Luke Belmar, I think, talked about it at one point. Like supposedly he did and this was like at the beginning of Facebook ads, like more than 10 years ago. They did he did like Facebook ads for some Wall Street firm, and he was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it for free for a while. And like for a few months, he did it for free, and they were of course getting traffic from it because it's good. There were good ads, and it was good business. And then he like called them up one day, and it's like, yo, you guys want to pay me for the fact that I brought you God knows how much money from this? And they're like, no, okay. And he just turned off the ads. And I think they called him next morning and signed him like a big fat retainer. So that's like an extreme example, but it still is very much applicable in a sense that if you do a good enough job, they would rather keep you and keep their results and their clients and their money and everything that is coming with it than not do anything at all. And that's kind of the way it should, because then you also get like a really good word of mouth, and that matters a lot. Because if a guy, for example, is a coach, he is friends with other coaches, right? And if you do an exceptionally good job for him, he'll be extremely happy, and he will recommend you to most of his friends. And that, if he recommends you to 3, if those 3 recommend you to another 3 each, that's like, from one person you got, what's that, like 13 clients total if all of them work out. But I mean, you just imagine how scalable this gets at each level. So the basic thing would be to do an exceptionally good job when doing the free stuff, and then eventually you will probably get paid. If not just cold outreach is a game of numbers. You just reach out enough times, you will book a call with enough of them, and then you will sell enough of others. So numbers and probability, and that's why it's annoying. Like I hate call outreach from the bottom of my heart, but you have to do it to actually get results and do stuff. So it sucks, but I suppose it's supposed to suck to some extent. So there we go. What's the next one? What type of content builds trust fastest in 2026? Okay, I will read this once more for the like short form repurposing. So, what type of content builds trust fastest in 2026? Long form, obviously, because if it is about trust, it's of course the fact that long form is well, the most capable. FYI, I take a timer for optimal nicotine absorption, and well, we'll get into that at some point, but yeah, I would say naturally long form. Above that is streaming, but that is if you stream it to little people online, that just makes no sense. Also, I would refer to that experiment Alex Ramosi was talking about. There was like some NFL game, and they were bringing out different content creators to like make the audience cheer like in different amounts. And there were first the short form TikTok guys, and they got some degree of cheering, but not much really. They almost didn't get recognized at all. Then you had the long form guys, which got a lot of recognition, like big guys like I think MKBHD or someone along those lines. And the guys actually that was the most cheering were streamers. And because of that was why Alex, like when he was launching the $100 million models, he made it like a 3-day live stream. And that's why it probably sold as much as it did, because he was solving people's problems on the stream. And then, for the rest of the time, he was talking about business, and the fact that he was online made people like trust him more. And well, it just proves the point of that NFL experiment. And if you don't have enough followers to stream, I'd say long form, like what I'm doing right now. When you sit down and listen to someone for like a reasonably long period of time, you actually get to understand them, to see that they're an actual real person with real opinions, with actually some life stories. And well, it doesn't feel like some guys like reaching out, yo bro, I can like get you X amount of results. Like there's more credibility behind it, because it's a person. When there's a person you trust is recommending you something, it's like your really good friend is like, yeah, I know this guy, he does a good job at this, I can recommend him. It's like more personal, and it's just a trust game. So long form wins for most. And then if you have enough people following you, stream all the time. that works well. Clavicular and all the other like famous streamers at the moment, they're quite famous. But they can also sell a lot, so lots of trust there, I would say. What mistakes instantly make a personal brand feel low status or desperate? I'd say that what makes someone feel desperate or low status would be if they're kind of there's no dignity in their pitching. They're just reaching out and they're like a frightened person, like, oh bro, buy this, you get the vibe eventually when someone like reaches out to sell something to you. And also if they like, maybe not desperate, but certainly if you trust them less, you're less likely to buy. So if someone reached out to you to sell you like a high ticket something, and high ticket offer of any kind, and when it's a considerable amount of money, when you aren't like rich and loaded and like 3 to 5K retainer is not like a chump change for you, you would probably want to like know that person or build a degree of trust. And when someone like that reach out to you, you usually, first you go on their social media, and then it's like, it's a verified profile, so at least he has a government ID. Then you see that he has posted like 300-400 pieces of content. He actually put a considerable degree of effort into this. Then you go maybe to the links tab on his profile, and you see that he has an X profile, TikTok, a YouTube profile. He's everywhere, and he makes content everywhere. And because someone is putting that degree of effort into something, he must be more legit than someone who like has 5 posts on his profile and is reaching out to you for something. So if you seem like you have invested enough money, time, and resources into something, it's more likely to seem legit, and thus it sounds less desperate. That's what's kind of the first thing to pop on my mind about this, because there are endless examples of this, and I will try to like make 2 or 3 per like question, so that this video doesn't end up being like, I don't know, 20 hours long. Not 20 hours, maybe like 2 hours. That's a bit too much. I'm aiming for like 45 minutes. That resembles being optimal in my kind of books. Also, I don't have too much time to waste because I'm heading to the gym after this. So the more you know. What's the next question? How do you decide whether someone needs more content, better content, or a better offer? So I'll go from the back. Most offers are actually good enough. They are just not, advertised enough, and that's I think what Alex again proves with his book, because it's an amazing book, of course, the $100 million money models, and he advertised it for 3 days straight. He was streaming for 3 days straight, and like it was like the ad campaign he made beforehand was like so outlandishly big that like you couldn't not know the fact, if you were anything remotely in that niche, that he was selling a $30 book, which is a low ticket offer. Like, of course you're going to go buy it, and especially the way like he structured it. I'm going off now, of course, a bit, but especially the way he structured it, where he had like you can buy a bundle of all 3 books, like the whole trilogy, or you could buy 10 of the money 10 books of the money models, and he encouraged you to give it out to friends, and it was easy to buy. But like most offers are good enough, and you just aren't advertising it enough, in a sense that you aren't doing enough outreach, or you aren't making enough content, or any of the other ways of outreaching outreaching to people. Sorry, my English is indeed horrendous. Better content, more content. So I'd say that depends on the type of the content. If you're doing a VSL, it should be fairly well edited. You should at least hire an editor which will edit it properly. Hire a copywriter to make you a good structure, or hire an agency to do it for you. I do that, by the way. And if it's something that's like 8 to 10 minutes, hyper targeted, it should have a structure, and it should like make a ladder for people to climb and make it easy for them to ascend. And as for short form, I don't think it needs to be like as extreme, as perfect as like 3D edits and stuff. because there are people to do that, like Devin Jatku, well respected and a big guy in the space, of course, and he does that all the time, but he does a fairly low volume of it, and it's even those like short form clips are like mini VSLs, so that's like, you know, perfect. But from what I recall, his offer for like that is fairly high ticket, and it works because they're like mini VSLs, right? Mini well-edited VSLs that are like have a proper structure, and they're pushing you to buy something. And you know, when someone puts that degree of effort into a single piece of content, it's like, you know, it makes sense. But usually, what I see is a trend now that most people have kind of shied away because short form doesn't build trust as much, so people are pivoting to long form actually. And the short form again is like a funnel into long form, so they make it relatively low effort. Like you can see that with Alex Hormozi. For a period of time, he did like fairly high intensity edits, like Devin, for example. But after a point, he's like decided to make his short form a relatively low effort, so it's him talking, maybe like with a few cameras so he can like switch the angles, and just captions and like minimal zoom ins and zoom outs. And that's because, if again with short form, it's kind of a volume game. If you get more times to swing the bat, you get more chances that one of those will go viral. And if you make like 3 or 4, or let's say one short highly edited short form a week, you will, sure, some of them will pop off, you know, but that's still 4 videos a month. But if you make 2 a day, more of them have a chance of hitting it big, quote unquote. But still, I think you should, like, as a rule of thumb, follow like what the big guys are doing. So for example, the last number that is kind of available online is that Alex Hormozi was putting 70K a month into his like content team, because he has it all in house now. And if a guy that spends that much resource into deciding whether something is good or whether something is bad, I think you should follow his example, because he has trialed and errored his way through it and decided that's the thing to do. So you should just kind of copy it, because you don't have that or more resources to, you know, around and find out. And yeah, just follow people who have tested their shit. So I've wandered off way too far from this question, but that happens sometimes. But more content, better content, or better offer? Offer. Okay. Offer should be last, because most offers are decent enough. They just aren't advertised enough. Almost always the answer first is more content. And then if the content the guy had previously was either non-existent or like really bad, like, you know, filming off a bad camera or phone, decent lighting, no, you know, he didn't take care of the stuff, then yes, those simple improvements can take his content to be of a sufficient quality so that it actually looks good, you know. So that's the answer to that one. Next question. These are personal ones, so you actually get to know me sometimes. So, what has archery taught you about repetition, pressure, and performance that applies directly to business? For those who don't know, I'm an Olympic recurve archer, and I am a member of the Serbian national team in archery. And what training archery full-time for a period of time, not a period of time, like 3 or 4 years, closer to 5 actually, taught me is that archery is specific. So we would spend, at like the peak training seasons in the summer, we would spend probably 6 to 8 hours on the field every day just shooting, because it's a volume thing where you have to shoot 500 to 600 high quality arrows a day, and it just takes time. Top of that, we usually had like gym or running every day, kind of interchangeably, and then you also, for recovery purposes, had to sleep enough, which after that degree of exertion and effort took a good 8 to 9 hour sleeping session, maybe even a nap in the middle of the day between like shooting practice. And what that has taught me is that you kind of have to be that way in business. So just grueling hours every day, because as the point is that you should spend as much time doing the thing you want to succeed. And some other sports have a different kind of parallel to it. So if you're a person that does track and field, you will probably go have your 1, 2, maybe 3 hour high quality focused, high effort training session, and then you will go home and rest, because that's the maybe even more important part than the training itself, so that you recover proper, so that you can actually push at 100% on the next training session. And that's different for business, I'd say, because you kind of have to be on all the time. Every waking hour, every hour you are awake, you are working, and you are just, tunnel vision, like a horse with those, thing he has on the side of his head when he's racing. And also, another good thing is that you should kind of be binary. If you are doing something, you're doing just that. If you are going to sleep, you don't give a about anything else. You need to get your 8 hours in, so that your brain works properly, so that you can think and work better and more effectively. And that ends up being, if you're only sleeping, you are only sleeping. If you are working, you are only working. There's no, a call from this person, or a call from, mom, like, yeah, I get these things, and then someone else calls you, like, yeah, do that. Or you need to have a tunnel vision. You can't have distractions, and that's kind of the main thing, the main things from the training. My brain is turning into mush, and should probably end this soon and get to training, but we will see. Next question: what does your actual week look like, balancing business, training, and content? So my day usually ends up looking something along the lines of: I get my 8 hours of sleep. I usually go to bed at like 9:30 or 10, end up sleeping to maybe 6 a.m. So that's a good 8.5 hours. I track my sleep on my Garmin, and try to be as consistent in that as possible, because when you are well rested, when you sleep well, your brain is more capable, right? When I wake up, I do what every sane person does. I go up, I brush my teeth, all the bathroom stuff you do in the morning. I probably go downstairs to the kitchen, take a bite of something, then I take my supplements, and then I proceed to work immediately, because I value the time after my waking a lot, because it's, technically speaking, the most productive time you have, because you are just got out of bed, you are extremely rested, and it's your most capable time. And I do that, and I use that for work and for big tasks. So I would usually, like, at least have a 4-hour work block, even if I have some obligation I have to fulfill that day, but it ends up being like a proper 8 focused hours. So 9, that means that I'm probably like tunnel vision working to 2. At that point, I usually proceed to have one of my workouts. So from like physical training exclusively, it ends up being like an hour to an hour and a half at the gym, or a running session, which I also track on my Garmin. This will end up being a Garmin plug, but yeah. Uh, and after that, say an hour and a half long session, I usually like sit down, eat something, so I hit rest and digest, and it's usually 4 by that time. I might, because I like to read a lot, I kind of have a tendency to do at least an hour of reading a day, sometimes 2 if I feel like it. So after my training, after I've eaten, I usually like take to reading something, so that I kind of wind down from the training and relax a bit. And by that time, it's usually like 4:30 or 5, and I end up working for the rest of the day. And on the days in which I'm shooting, I'm delegate, say, 2 hours extra in that, like, second portion of the day, which is like not as geared towards work, towards shooting. Or I ended up just working until it's time to sleep again. I have a kind of wind down session before sleep, so it's maybe like half an hour to 45 minutes, where I again either sit in bed and read before bed. And that's really what my days end up being. Of course, like, I have social needs like any other creature on this earth, and sometimes every like third or fourth or fifth day, because I tend to work as much as I can nowadays, I either go out with friends or make some kind of thing where you are like socializing with people, but also working. So for example, I sometimes would call a friend, we would go work out in the gym together. That's quite productive, and maybe go afterwards and grab a meal, and that's what my socializing and that ends up being. um, a pro tip for this, in my opinion, would be that you should kind of, when you are like short on time in the lonely chapter and building whatever you are building, you should kind of try to fit socializing and hanging out with people with other activities you have. So, like I gave an example of the gym just now. You go to the gym and you ask a friend, you want to train with me? Or if you have to film content, I don't know, like you said I will film 10 like short form ones. You go on a walk in the woods with a friend and like, yeah, we'll record something, here's a camera, you will record me, I will walk, and then you spend that time kind of productively. It's also quite fun if one of your friends is running a business too, so when you sit down and talk for an hour or an hour and a half, you are talking about business, and you are advising each other on what you kind of found out this week working or something along those lines. So you should kind of seek to make your time productive, even though it might not feel that way sometimes. But yeah, also if I am behind on work, I will probably slack on the socializing so that I get the work, because I know if I go out with friends and I know that I haven't done some work that I should have done, I constantly have like something thinking in my head that I haven't done the work and that I need to do the work, and I will be annoyed all of the time I'm out, and that's just not productive for me. So I usually work until do the work that I deemed needed doing, and then I'm fine to go out, and then I can actually like relax and talk to people and not be like wired while I'm out. What's the next question? What do you believe about content right now that most people will realize too late? Well, I don't know if it's too late yet, but you should kind of focus on long form as much as possible because of the trust building stuff I talked about for a good portion of this video. You should, well, devote a degree of time, because AI is coming. You can see the AI deepfakes now are getting like exceedingly well, and that just means that probably within a year's time you will have people online selling content, in a sense that, yeah, they get some baseline of you, and then you could be like, AI will be making like your short form and long form videos, and you should double down on like any kind of content creation now, because I predict that in maybe like 5 years time there will be enough so-called AI influencers, which are not real people, or are real people but an AI is making all their like content stuff, that when people actually decide to buy something from you, they will probably be conspicuous if you are actually a person or not, and they will scroll a bit down and they will see that there was a time where creating content actually required you to sit down and film yourself, and this guy took the effort. He is a real person. I'll buy from him, probably more likely than if I would buy from someone who is just an AI selling something online. Okay, the next question: what have you had to sacrifice to take both sports and business seriously? So, social life mostly, and I don't mind it because I have figured out that I would rather spend the bits of time I can spend with people I actually genuinely like. And also, as far as going out and drinking and stuff, if in my kind of observation, if I have to drink to enjoy spending a time with the person, that's usually not something I'm a fan of. Also, drinking itself, like sure, when I was younger, I used to do it a lot, but with drinking you pay the price on the day of drinking and on the day after, because you actually have to recover to have any meaningful degree of output in work or training or anything else. So I just abstain from drinking, and yeah, social life, drinking, and but it's not as much of a sacrifice in my opinion. You're just putting it off so you can do that properly down the line when you have resources and actually like want to spend time with people and socialize. And you will also get to socialize with a higher quality of people, because when you are past a certain income and all your friends are entrepreneurs, when you sit down and talk, you're again talking about business, and it feels like socializing. You're fulfilling your you're fulfilling your human need to socialize, and you're also doing something productive in the meantime. So I would have that any day of the week, as opposed to what normal people do with all the drinking and going out and partying and stuff. What has competitive archery taught you about pressure that most people in business never learn? So I remember when we would have training camps, and when you're having a training camp, it's basically a week where you don't like kind of you're going all out and you are tired all the time, and at the end there's usually like an evaluation experiment where you have to do like a Cooper's test for running, or you like have to hit certain PRs in the gym. That's not as hard. I think the Cooper's test was probably the hardest for me, and it sucks to have to exert yourself to that degree. And it if there is a feeling like dying in this world, outside of dying, actually, I would say it's like a good VO2 max effort. But when you train and train to that extent, your pain tolerances kind of gets abused, and they get bigger and stronger, of course, and that's useful for this because there will, of course, like I'm aiming to have decent sleep, but there are times when I'm onboarding a new client, for example, and it's a long and strenuous process, and you sometimes have to sacrifice sleep. That just it's a degree of pressure which I endure easier because I have done competitive sports to that extent, and I can just endure pain more than most people, I would say. So that's something good from there. When do you feel most disciplined, and when do you find yourself slipping? So it's like it's a wave-like thing. Like motivation itself is sometimes there, but sometimes it's not, right? But I try to perform, and I do perform regardless. When I'm less motivated, I still do the work, but I understand that when I get less motivated, it's usually because I didn't like interact socially with people in like a period of time, and I understand that I kind of have to fill those batteries, and I just do fill those batteries at times. So when I like feel the craving to go out with a friend, I will go out with a friend because I know it's detrimental for me to work in that state because I will be less productive. So it's all kind of a balancing thing to know when to do what, but it's not hard at all. And also, like, I'm annoyed with it all the time, but we have a certain human limit. I sometimes wish I'm like an AI bot and I can like genuinely work 24/7, but you have to sleep 8 hours, and then you have to fill your like other social needs. You have to socialize, you have to go out with girls sometimes. I find that annoying to a degree because I like to work. What kind of life are you actually trying to build through all this work? Well, being poor is only romantic and good and cool in books and novels and movies and stuff, because you know that the guy will get out of it eventually. In life, it's not so, because it's just resources. Like if I wanted to train, I would be a much better athlete if I was loaded, because I will be able to hire the best coach, buy the best equipment, and I will just perform on a higher level because I have more resources. If the limiting part is not the person's head, which in my person is not, I genuinely think I can do anything I can imagine. The only limiting factor in that case is just the resource, and I'm working to gather more resources so that, well, life with more resources is more fun. What do most people see behind the scenes what do most people not see behind the scenes when they look at your content or your work? So I'd say that for every hour or so of content, there is probably, say, 30 to 40 hours of work on the back end of just working, servicing clients, reaching out to people, all the, how do you say it in English, like 9 yards or something. And lots of work comes before these videos where I'm like kind of sharing what I've learned and all my knowledge. I'll do one more and then I will proceed to go to the gym because this is already 45 minutes long. How do you protect focus? So again, I have a mandatory like at least 4-hour deep work session after like waking up. Usually ends up being closer to 6 or 8 depending on the other obligations I have during the day. But I'd say that spending the time after waking up, which is your most productive time, on the thing which matters most, which in this case would be work, gives me the edge over like normal people who are like kind of here, then they are there, like their attention is all over the place. So that's my advantage. So with that, we will be wrapping up. These sessions genuinely feel nice because it feels like I just had a 45-minute conversation, even though it's with a camera, but through camera it is with all of you who are watching this. So yeah, there will be more of these coming, more of the even other types of like long form and short form. So do subscribe to this channel and do check out all my other ones. And yeah, see you in the next one, guys.